Okay, so Nessus, from according to their documentation and anything else, is a vulnerability scanner. So let me pull this over here. All right, so this is the Red Hat Security Guide. Come on, catch up. Let me go back up top here. And if you look at the Red Hat Security Guide, inside here, they talk about vulnerability scanning. They talk about audits. Um, so if you look in here, it'll tell you firewalls, system auditing. Okay, here it is. Compliance and vulnerability scanning. So you can use OpenSCAP, Nexus, and then you can use these on your containers as well. Um, Also, following along with the NISPOM Chapter 8, or it used to be called NISPOM Chapter 8, now it's called the NISPOM 800-53, I think it is. And then PCI DSS, dealing with encryption. And then there is another vulnerability scanner called OpenVAS, VAS. So you can play with that too if you want to um, download and play with this. But today um, we're gonna do the Nexus scanner, and then we're gonna get into uh, setting up audits. All right, so I went ahead and went here, created an account, got the server set up and installed, and that took about 20 minutes once you get it set up and installed. And then after I got that set up and installed, um, I was able to, here we go. I was able to get the agent to install to play with. So what I've done is I went out to DigitalOcean, I've set up another machine, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually scan this machine. Let me go back and show you some things. So I scanned another machine back on July the 21st, and this is what the results were. And those results were a medium, a low, and info, and you'll get a high. So what you want is you want to, when you're doing your vulnerability scans, you want to take care of all your reds and your yellows, all your mediums and your highs. Highs being the ones you want to immediately look at, and then your your mediums are the next best thing. Now, in the world of scanning tools and the world of security, some things may come back as a medium, but you may have to write some type of, I guess, workaround to say, hey, this is okay. If this is a medium, I'm all right. You know, don't 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 penalize me for this being this medium. So with this scan, you can see that it's telling me I could drill down a little further, and it's telling me that my SSH is configured. The cipher is not configured correctly, and then it tells you about where that comes from. And it also told me that it's running on port 22. So it gives you a little information about what's going on. When this was published, I guess this plugin for this particular cipher of SSH was on 2016, modified on 2016, 12, 14, and published on this day. And then it also tells you here, it gives you a CVS base score. So let's go look this up right here. So there is what we consider, well, we could come here and we could look at, and I'll send you this too, where we could look at the different scores and so forth that we have on our when we scan. And so they tell you how they calculate it. They also go over what those ratings mean. Here you see. Oh yeah, I forgot. It's also critical too. So you want to get critical, high, and medium. You want to get rid of those. So they walk through about how they got that information and everything. But also, I want to show you. You can go to you can get CVEs, and you can see their CVE scores. I think it's Mitra. So if you come here, and this applies to all OSs, you can take a look at what's going on with your OS. Like what problems could you possibly have? So let's see. So let's see. I'm looking for the list where it shows you a list of vulnerabilities that you have. I don't want to download it. I just want to look at the list. Let me go back one. Not the Wikipedia, but this may be it. Let me look. This is how you can search for it, but that's not really what I want. Oh, here we go. I don't want that. Hold on. Where's this thing yet? That's the master copy. Yeah, it's not giving me the list that I want. So when I find it, let me think about it. I'll find this list. But basically, what you'll have is you'll come in and you'll see all the problems that you hear. This may be it. Is this it? All the not scans, but exploits that you have for that day or for the year or so forth that you may not even know existed. And then there are IVAs, so IVA database. And it takes you back here. Yeah, that's not it. This may be it. Okay. So August. So let's look at the CVEs for August. And you come in. This is similar to all. So Open EMR has their CVEs. It tells you what the score is. And we could talk about the score a little later, but I just want you to be able to come in and say, okay, what is the problem that you're having? Where, let's go back and look in January. And you can see this list here. List goes on forever. So let's look at 2016, whatever, and it tells you like what this impact is, what it is, Borg, before 1.9, cryptic tool. And this gives you an analysis as well too. And you can dive off a little further into these. They have links on what they do and what problem that you would have with them. So it's just a good way to keep up with what's going on your in terms of vulnerabilities. So with Nessus, this is the free edition. The paid edition, I'm going to assume you get some updates. Um, so those updates may be like, let's go here to scans. Let's create a new scan. All right. So in creating a new scan, you'll see I have it, and I can do an advanced scan. These ones that are in purple, of course, I have to pay for and get an upgrade. But it tells me about, if I want to do the WannaCry, a malware scan, and so forth. So I'm going to do an advanced scan. I already have the machine selected here. Let's get the IP address of this machine. And I already have the servers running on it. And then I actually installed the agent. So then I can just say this is my DigitalOcean host. I can leave it in my scans. Name. I'll name it here. I just put DO, and I'll put the IP address. I'll put underscore IP address. Hopefully it'll take the periods. It should. And then, like it says here, add upload target files. I don't have anything. So then I'm going to save that. So now I have that. Now I want to launch this. And it's going to go out and try to connect. And it should fail because I didn't give it any username and passwords, but it may connect by agent, but it should fail though. Inconsistent hostname, IP address. All right, so it's doing this thing. So it found it. It's running a scan. So as you can see, it comes back as telling me my basically my DNS, my fully qualified domain name is not resolving because I don't have it in the host file, and then I don't have DNS set up either. So I think this should fail because I think this is trying to go through and get there and detect. Let's go back and look. All right, we got a weak SSH algorithm there. You'll see I have the lows and so forth and so on. I just stood up this as a minimum host on DigitalOcean. But suppose I had another scanner, well, not another scanner, but other applications on it. And it's still scanning too, by the way. That's why it's flashing. But if I had other applications on it, it would come back and let me know that maybe those applications are not up to date. But again, let me see. Look up that. Yeah, it keeps coming back to the same thing. Yeah. So these CPEs are kind of like the same. So here it is, Common Platform Enumeration. And see, they work with the same company I was looking at. Same person. So basically they go through and tell you what the problem is, what vulnerabilities you have. So let's look at vulnerability management. Here's some other tools that they have recommended on their site. Here is the Search Engine National Checklist. Oh, here's the OSCAP. Let's open that up. Oh, and I saw someone has a question. Go back to my scanner here. Think we're done. Does the list of vulnerabilities on by OS, or does it? I think it lists it by for Linux. It does by the actual packages, and so for the application, it depends on what makes up the application. Like if it's Oracle, and it depends on what version of Oracle and what's all involved with building that, it'll list that out. So, but it lists out everything for that. Let me look at semantic and CPE. Yeah, so I'm sure semantic probably pulls from there. But then they're looking at viruses and so forth. So see, they still have those CVEs that they get. So they're all, based us, basically the same thing. If they're pulling back what CVEs they have, like this is specific to them, but it may be a vulnerability that may be on, say, a Rails 7, and it may be a Java, but that Java is needed by Semantic, so they'll probably have it listed there. They won't have everything listed, but everything that works with their stuff. But you can all pull that back from this national database. And if you ever like try to figure out what's going on with your machine, with your laptop, or if it's a vulnerability and stuff like that, I recommend looking up, getting these alerts sent out to you daily on things that for your environment, whether it's your actual environment at work or your environment at home. Yeah, it's a 7 day. Well, no, this is a free version. It's not a trial. This is a free version. You can download a free version of this. That's why I said I downloaded the free version. So on Nexus, on their website, if you went over to their products and you went to Nexus download and you said I want to do Linux, and let me see, CentOS 7. That's 5. That's 5. 6. Here it is for 7. When you grab this RPM, it's going to ask you which version do you want to do, and it's the home edition. So click on products. All right. So let's go back to our scan here. We got the same thing. We got 18 vulnerabilities. If we look at the device type and drill down into it, it didn't report my ports or anything, but it just gave me the host. And inside of their manual, it'll tell you about the confidence level and so forth. So let's go back to hosts and let's look up, let's see, service detection. It's on port 22. It scanned it over port 22. And you can have it scan itself too. So that's a little bit about the Nexus scan, and really about what I really wanted to show you were, well, the policies. Like, I think the policies are like who can access what and who can do whatever and what they have access to. But really, what I want to show you is the different tools that you can, the different scans that you can do. So if you need to do PCI DSS, which is your credit card scan, you can do that. Here's your malware scan. Let's go and see what we get here. Schedule notifications. I can set up and have it send me stuff. Discovery. No. Report. Allow users to edit the scan results. Advanced. 30 hosts max. Scan with low bandwidth. Basic. Alright. And that's pretty much it for that. And then save it. Following one of the following credentials must be added. Okay, so we're right here. So in my credentials, I go here. I can do SSH, and I can do by Kerberos or a public key. I'm just gonna do by password for right now because I didn't set up. Well, I did set up a key here, but we're gonna leave that as is. Let's do sudo here. It may just need nothing because I am going this route. All right, let's save that. And then now let's go back to here and launch this one. And let's click on and see what we get. And then also on this machine, Let's look and see if there's anything being logged in var log messages. Nothing there. Let's see, completed. Hold on. This is what we get. So host scans. Nothing. I guess I'm not getting anything. Okay. Let me have what happens when I click on this one. Yeah, I get something. So back here, nothing. All right, let's look at this one again. My credentials. I did have public key set up, so it went by key for that. My compliance. So say you had this host out in AWS, you can upload a custom audit file, or you could do Tenable's best practices. You have other companies that they have their stuff. Here's one for OpenStack. Here's one for Unix, but I wonder if the Unix one is about as close as you can get to Linux. Let's see. Yeah. CentOS 7. I don't have a workstation, but sure. And yeah, that's fine. Let's see, do I have to save anything? Yep. And then the plugins that we may want. These are the plugins that are automatically enabled. I'm sure you could probably download other plugins, but then I think that's when you have to start paying for stuff. So settings. All right, we added something. Let's see if we can launch this one again. This one. All right, we launched it. So it's doing this scan. Let's go back to this box. It's not there, so let's go to var log. All right, so secure is telling me that something is logging in. And I don't see anything for messages or anything, so I wonder where it's hitting it at. Let's see. It's still going. Hopefully it'll come out with the same thing, even though we added that file. So when we have stuff like this, like if you're in a company, most likely you'll have somebody doing a Nexus scan on your machine. But what you want to know is like when files are changing or somebody does something to your machine. And this is where it should be installed, but let me double verify that. Audit D. You want Audit D to make sure that things, are going according to plan and files don't just magically change. So in that security file that I sent over, let me see here. There is what we call audit, system auditing. Now, the one thing about this is when you're doing system auditing, you want to make sure that you have your keys set up, and I'm going to show you that. And this kind of all goes and ties in together. And I did a um, a meetup on this as well. All right, so let's see. Let's go back and it says let's do a yum install audit. which should be there. Oh, it's not there. So there you go. We'll install Audit. Audit D is the daemon. Audit is the package. So here's the file here. And you want to change this file for what you want it to do. So let's go in here. Yum, install Vim. And you said, can you do multiple? You can set it up, but I'm not sure how much it slows it down. But yeah, give it a shot and see how many machines you can do at one time. It may be a max on that. All right, so in here it tells you like where it writes log files to, uh, the max files, the number of logs. I think this max log file, I think that may be the size, and I think that may be in megs. Um, and then this is the caveat about audit. So you see here where it says 75% space left. So you may have a machine that once it hits 75% and it may be in production. And when I say 75%, I mean 75% disk space used, and it's in production, it automatically shuts down because that's what we told it in here. We told it that that inside of our syslog, if we are at 75%, shut it down. If the disk errors, shut it down. So you have control over this. And audit the audit daemon itself and Red Hat with SE Linux is very, 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 very chatty. So let's turn this on. Oh, that's nice. Oh, I forgot. So with Audit D, there's no restart. There's only start and stop. Why? Because anytime you make a change to the file for audit, you have to reboot the system because it has to relabel it. So here it's telling me to do a daemon reload because there's not a restart. I did a start, but there's no. You have to actually reboot the machine. All right, so now let's go over to, let's look at audit log, the conf file, and you can see that the logs go in var/log audit.d. So this is where I say it's really, really chatty, and it was fill up your log files. So you're looking at this like, how can I read that? So there is a way to read audit files. So this here was the audit.conf file, how you configure audit. But then we get into how do we, I'll come back. How do we read the file? And so inside of here, they talk about how to read the file. Let's look and see what there's that over here. Scroll up a little bit. All right, so we want to define audit rules. And this is where it gets really, really hairy. So when you're defining your audit rules, I can't stress enough that you need to make sure that you have keys. So audit.rules, which is empty, right? Okay. It's empty right now, but I don't think they have any rules in here for an example. Yeah. Oh, am I not in a directory? I'm not in the directory. Yeah, they don't have any. So let's do an audit control name page. Okay, so in here, they give you some information on like list rules on a per line basis. Like I can do audit control -L. I can I can read this file without going into this file. However, this information is important when you're talking about how to list an action, how you can write your audit rules from command line and 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 add them to the file, but it's only going to add them temporarily. It's not going to have that uh, on reboot. So in your audit dot rules, that's where you want to add it at. So let's go look at an example audit dot rules. And it's one in that file too. So it used to be where the audit rules were like really, really, really long. Not that one, but here. So this is what I mean about your keys. So from command line, basically what they did was write etc password with the permissions of write and I think access, and the -K is the key, and then the password changes. And I'm reading this line here. And you can look at what each one of those each one of those do from the man page that I just showed you. So here they also have rules for like the NISPOM rules, STIG rules. I think most people probably follow the STIG rules now than the NISPOM do. Than they do the NISPOM. And then, here you're backing it up. But what the results of this is this stuff here. Setting the time of day, the time change. So basically this is an audit rule right here. The architecture, the adjustment of time, the set of time of day, and time change. If you can read audit rule files, you're golden. Like especially in security, if you're trying to figure out when somebody logged onto the box, what commands did they run while they were on there when they were logged in. So let me look and see something here. I don't have a watch on anything, so let me see if this works. I may have to reboot. So let's do a CDO to var log. Um, let's go to audit. And so let's see if anything happened on that last command that I just did. Do you see anything? And no, you don't see anything. So let's reboot this one. But before we do, let's put in a audit rule. Lazy. All right, let's reboot. So basically, all I did was I put in there like if anything changes in Etsy password, log it, and then let me know who made the change. That's what that does. So this machine should be back up here pretty soon. All right. So let's go into Etsy password and let's just add a fake user. Um, let's say T read, and let's give it 10. Let's give it let's give me 4,000 and 4,000. And then let's change this to And what I'm doing is, this is my user ID and my GID that I just changed. Here I'm just giving the name of who I am. Here is my, this should be my, this should be my home directory. And then this should be my shell that I use to log in with. All right, so we just did a change. And let's go over here to var log and cd to audit. And let's look at the last 20 lines, provided that it came up okay. All right, so we have an account login. It says it failed. Let's see, do we have, oh, so here we go. This is where the audit rule thing comes into play. No rules. Okay, so it didn't like my rule. It got wiped. Am I on the same machine? How did that happen? Let's look at this. ETC audit. Let's look at C to rules. Maybe this one. Yeah, it's this guy. Wrong file. Let's reboot him again. He had the wrong file. I'm gonna have to go back and add another user. Any questions so far? And this is on the RHCSA exam too. But you want to set it up where you can, well, all this stuff is automated if you're in production. Let's just say read. Let's go 1. Let's go 1, 2. All right. So now let's do that on, let's see. Here we go. And now let's look at var log, sorry. Audit D, sorry. All right. You can see that it caught that me changing that file, right? But we don't want to have to do that way. We want to actually pass it the key. So I think it's audit. Let's go help. I forget. So dash key. What is the name of my key? Audit. I think it was password changes. Yeah. So we want to do audit control dash K password changes. The key needs a watch or a syscall given prior to it. Okay. Let's see. I did a watch. Oh, this is asking me like I want to append it. Hold on. That's not what I want to do. I want to read the audit file. So reading audit file. I forget the command. Rel. key. Oh, here. I don't think it's all. Is it all search? Let's see. Okay, all search. All right, so as you can see, all search returned back everything that was collected in that audit file with the key of password underscore changes. So let's look at this. All right, when you see here, it said a config change. That rule got added, but it also trying to see if so it told me the person who gave me the current working directory, but it also gives me the UID and the GID, excuse me, of the person that did it. And it gives me like all my commands. This is like when I talk about auditing being chatty. So you can set up your audit file to not record every single event that you do because it records every single event. So let's tail-f var log audit log. Okay. And I am going to log in to this machine. Hold on, let me grab this IP address. And let's go back here. And I'm going to scroll up here. That's me, SSHN to this box. That's how much auditing gets done with what I just did. Another location where a lot of stuff gets logged in is var log secure. And it tells you like what port I came from and what I was doing. So that's like the basic of auditing. 1 second, please. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is we talked about auditing, and we can do a deep dive into that later on. So far we did a Nexus scan. We look at vulnerabilities. We did a deep dive on auditing. I also want to look at this security guide. I want to go through that with you. So in this security guide, all right, here they talk about, your security updates, understanding when packages are signed. Let's go up here. Firewalls, single sign-on, how to secure NFS, encrypting your partitions, your bootloader, your BIOS when you boot up the VM or whatever. If you're using VMware, it's a BIOS. You can password protect that. You can password protect your boot up sequence, like putting in the password and so forth. They also talk about vulnerability assessments. So let's go over to that. Okay, in here they kind of walk you through it like, you should think like the enemy, but it also walks you through like how to design and set up your situation, and whether you should have something on a private network or a public network, or should everything be private, should you use keys, should you not use keys. Let's see. Yeah, so they talk about Nmap let's see, let's do that. Has anyone used Nmap before? Hold on one second. Let me get off of Slack because people are pinging me. Where did I go? Let's go over here. Nmap. All right, so now I should let Tune drive because she's done this before. Both Tunes, I should let you drive. All right, so we installed Nmap. So with Nmap, here's the help for it. And so they give you an example here. So you can do a whole subnet range. You can do you can do 2 subnets at one time. They tell you about a lot of options here. They tell you about uh, host discovery. Like if you want to, we can probably do a simple list scan. Let's look at this. Let's see, IP dash IP dash IBA. I'm a 24-bit, so let's grab that one and let's do nmap dash sl dot 0/24. So now I'm pretty much scanning the whole entire network of that one for DigitalOcean. And here's the report back for that. So when you're out in the cloud, you're never really safe. So I just did a scan on that entire subnet, and I can see what's on that subnet. Right, even the host name that's rendered back for that. Here's my box. Right. So with that information that I just gathered, I can go one step further. Right. I can start taking, let's see, these people's names, these IP names. Let's see, does this actually render? How about this one? And these are public IPs, by the way. This is not a private IP. Okay, so what do I know about this information? What do I know about this? I know first off that port 80 is open on this box, right? And possibly port 443. I also can find out what other ports are open using Nmap to scan this to find out what other ports are open on that box. And then once I find that information out, I can use various tools to exploit that, that machine. So Nmap is a useful tool. Let's look at Nmap --help. So in here, we can block off if we want just 6 if we want 16. But let's use that same scan that we just did and let's do -A. And let's see if it'll report back what I need in terms of the -A here enables the OS detection. So if I use it in conjunction, I have to use it in conjunction with -SS, -ST, and -SF. So let's see if they have in here what those are. So I can do an OS. I can just do a -O. Let's do that one. Okay, still telling me I need a -SS. So let's just do a -SS. And then we'll go back and figure out what was -S needed. So says are not valid with any other scans. Okay, so I can't do that by itself. It has to be by itself. So let's see what we render. Any questions so far? No questions? Okay. It's still scanning. It may take some time. So I showed you the audits. I showed you the audits. We'll work through the security guide. We're gonna let that one run. And then let's come back over here, get out of Nmap, and let's go down to look at again, hit Nexus scans, right? So they direct you there, and basically they're talking about looking for vulnerabilities. And here's another tool called Nikito. All right, so I've never played with this one, so that's something I will leave that up to you to play with. I haven't played with it. I don't know anybody that's played with it. Um, let me see. They talk about your updating of your packages and security updates, which you need to keep up with, and which is what I showed you. But also in here, they talk about reverse pathing and verifying your reports. That's important too, because you may install a service and this happens all the time. So this is why when you do your Linux install, you should have the same rule that you have in security. Is, give the least privilege first, give the person the least amount of privilege first, and then you give them more privilege after that. So with that being said, you want to make sure that when you're setting up your instances or your VMs or containers, you have the least amount of packages that you possibly can to run just your application. Why? Because again, I showed you some things may have vulnerabilities, and somebody that's sitting on your network, that's scanning for whatever, can actually get a hold to your IP address or whatever else you have and then go from there. Let's go back and see if this scan is done. Oh, still going, and it's going to be a minute because it has to do with their entire subnet. It's a /24-bit subnet. So it's 254 hosts that it's going to have to come back and figure out what the OS is. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. So let's get back to this security guide. Also in here, they talk about inactive accounts. Remember, every time you have a particular package you install that comes with a service, it creates an account on your machine. So those accounts get created in Etsy password, and in Etsy password that becomes it usually puts it in as SBIN no login, And let me see if I can pull that up for you. Let's get a new tab. And no. Oh yeah, this is a cool tool. Somebody showed it to me in Slack the other day to get the weather report. It's pretty cool. I thought it was cool. That's just a sidebar. Geek stuff. All right, so let's see. Where's my IP address? Oh, it's right here at the top. I can do that. And never log in as root. Disregard what I'm doing. I just don't have my SSH key set up because I'm gonna destroy this machine as soon as we get done. 84.76. I'll make this a little bigger. Hey, come back. There you are. All right, clear my screen. All right, so inside, remember I'm going in exit password and this is getting logged. But every time you install a service, you see this right here. It says system D network. It gives it a UID, a group ID, and what it is. That's network manager, and it gives it the no login ability. But you could change that and have a service log in. But why would you need a service to log in unless it's something in particular that you need or whatever? But just keep that as a mental reminder when you're setting up uh your boxes. All right. And so the other thing in here that I want to talk about is Linux. The infamous Linux that everybody takes and turns off. And I'll talk about firewalls too. But Linux is God PDF. So here is that's from 2008. Let's go sort by within the past year. That works. This one works better though. I prefer the one from this one from Fedora. I think it breaks it down a little just a little clearer to me. All right, so in here they talk about the benefits. I don't know, can you see this? Make that a little bigger. They talk about the benefits and they talk about the domains. So let's go back to my box. Let's do a git enforce. And right now it's disabled. Because it's disabled and I'm going to turn it on, I have to reboot it. But guess what? I'm doing a scan, so whatever. But anyway, inside of etc Linux config, you have 3 different things. This is a bad background, so I'll read it to you. It's enforcing, permissive, and disabled. So let's turn it on permissive for now, which means if I reboot this machine, it won't stop me from doing things because I don't have stuff set up, but it will log everything. So remember, I told you Linux can be chatty and audit can be chatty. So, which brings up to another point. So in here, and I'm get to it, you have what we call targeted, and then we have what we call MLS. So you have a minimum, and then you have a MLS, which is a multi-level security protection. If you can do multi-level security protection, if you can do MLS, that's a guaranteed job. I'm just gonna say that. Most people are always looking for people to do that because it's really advanced and nobody really wants to do it. But if you can do MLS, you're pretty golden. So let's look up that. Let's go and say Linux MLS policy. All right. So, all right. So, look, you see, it's not recommended to use on certain things, but here's the MLS policy. They talk about how to change it. Of course, you have to do an auto relabel. You can do that in place. I usually reboot. All right, let's see if they give you some examples. And I'm trying to think who uses MLS. I know a few people that do, but everybody I know that uses MLS is always this hard thing of configuring everything. And I think we have to have a 1 day class on SE Linux and targeted and minimum and MLS, and understanding how to break all that down. Like, I would not advise you to try to, if you're gonna go take the RHCE, I advise you not to try to learn SE Linux at the last minute. Take your time and learn it through the whole course. So, like, if you're just playing with SE Linux on your stuff, play with it on your stuff, but really learn what's going on and how to use it. Another thing I wanted to bring up too is what I should have brought up was uh OSCAP. So OSCAP, as I showed you this earlier, is another way to scan or harden your machine. So say, um, like, if you're doing like system hardening of your machine, and when I say system hardening, let me break some things down. So I just did a DF minus H. What I'm showing you here is I'm showing you like the way DigitalOcean partitions their instances. But inside of OSCAP, inside of Nessus, and inside of the security guide, there are defined ways that you must set up your partitions. In particular, var slash temp and var itself, or var log. Why? Okay, so back in the back in my day, in the old times, but really the reason why is because back in the day when you were doing Linux, there wasn't this thing that we have now called LVM, which we have the privilege of having now. And so what you would have is, say I had a partition and I partition my drives out to these partitions that you see here. And then you can notice they're not in LVM either. Yeah. They don't even have LVM installed. Let's do a yum install LVM 2. That's the latest and greatest. All right. So what happened was, you would have partitions and the partitions would get filled. And then when you would wanted to, say, grow the partition, you would literally have to move the data off that particular partition, wipe the drive clean or wipe that partition clean, expand it, and then put the data back on there. So now that we have LVM, we can we can expand on the fly. And that's really important, especially when you have uh, var log messages getting filled up, SE Linux, and you turning on auditing, and those partitions getting filled up. That's very important because, like I showed you before, inside of audit and audit.conf file, or not audit.conf, yeah, auditd.conf. In here, like I showed you before, if it's if the space is left of 75% and it's in percentages, or 50% left, actually, the command in here, or the action to take, is suspend my box. So if I have this box in production and somebody is relying on, say, I don't have a backup to this box. Somebody's relying on it and it gets 50% full because they're pushing out so much data, then that's a problem. So it stops, and then you have to go and figure out what's going on, and so forth and so on. So, not a good thing. So let me see what's going on with my scan. Oh, we're getting look like it might time out. Oh, but we've got something back. Hold on. We got back off of 192, 241, 184, 136. We got back SSH. We got a version number, and we got that it's running Ubuntu. We also got a kernel, and we also got something about Android, but I think that's a false positive. And I think this, I think that is a false positive. It may be just an app. Yeah. But as you can see, I got back some information about the actual machine that's on this network. And as you can see, it says 999 filtered ports. That could be true. I think that's a false positive too. And then I'm getting some timeouts here. But, oh, let's scroll up. Let me see that. All right, here we go. Look. So on 184.134, they have port 22 open, port 25, port 80, port 443 is open. That one is port 80. We have some 22 and 80. Got some more ports open here. They might have ran FTP at one point, or they may have it on there, but it's not started. Oh, look. They have a Git repo and so forth. So very dangerous with your Nmap here, and you can get all kind of information. I killed that now that you've seen it. And let's get back over here to what we were talking about. So with that, like I said, with those partitions, they can get suspended. So let's go back over here to OSCAP. So originally when OSCAP came out, the security guide wasn't included inside of the install for OSCAP. You had to literally download the OSCAP from the OSCAP security guide from somewhere else, which was kind of annoying because um, if you're like me, you don't have time to go and figure out where's the OSCAP guide at. I need everything, right there together. So let's look up here, OSCAP, OpenSCAP, and they have a walkthrough. Let's do Rail 7. So that's that. And here's the Stig, and I'll cut and paste these links over so you can look at them for yourself as well. So let's look at the Stig requirements here. Open. Remind me later. Why? Here we go. All right. This is the fun stuff for all you security gurus. All right. I don't know if you can see this. Let me. It's kind of small. Oh, come on. All right. All right. So remember before I was talking about all right. Is that better for everyone? All right. Remember before I was talking about CVEs and all that? This kind of comes back full circle here with OSCAP and Nexus scans. So what would I say to someone who wants to get in security and say you took your Security Plus and you're doing your CISSP? I would tell you to learn how to do vulnerability scans. I would tell you to learn how to use Nexus, OSCAP, how to turn on audit rules on your Linux boxes. how to set that stuff up, how to look at those CVEs inside and say, okay, well, what's the latest and greatest? And Red Hat sends out vulnerabilities as well too when there's vulnerabilities going on. So they'll send you an email. So in here you'll see like the sticks. Does anybody use sticks? Anybody ever seen sticks before? So they're talking about temporary accounts. Like this is a policy, like for a pretty much a guideline for you to follow, like for you to harden your machine. And so you will follow this guideline for your STIGs, and then kind of set up your audit files, or the permissions on your files, or the set UID, or set GUID, and set UID on folders and so forth, ACLs and all of that kind of stuff. It kind of gets down into the nit and the grit of securing your box. They talk about like you will run an audit on your, let's see, prime example. This is a great one here. Let's clear your screen. If I looked at, is it called? Oh, I just forget it. Logins.def. So the STIG will scan and say, okay, I'm scanning your logins.def and this is not secure. You're telling me that I can have a maximum amount of maximum days my password can be operational is this length of time. I don't have any minimum days. My password length is 5 and the warning age is 7. So that's not really a good uh, for your system. But remember this, when you're looking at logins.def and you're doing this scan, this is local to this box. You may, however, have something like LDAP or FreeIPA or Centrify, which which takes care of all your login information. Another one that you want to look at is pam.d and login. All right. So system login, anything under pam.d, this is when it gets into the nit and the grit of logging in with Pam Tally, Pam Tally 2, uh, no, oh, let me look it up. No limit S limit. Let me look that up right quick. Um, so Pam Tally 2. I think it's called O limit. Let's see. L credit, no limit, all of those modules for logging in with SSH. Let me see if they get off into it here. Yeah, they talk about it a little bit right here. So that's not it. O limit. L credit. Let's look up L credit. Pam Rail 7. Here we go. Hardening your system. Disallowing root access, the risk, like I mentioned before, the risk of services. Let's see, do they have L credit? Pam. Okay. Your Pam modules. Now, back in the day, Pam modules used to be a pain. I've gotten used to them now. So here you see your password retry. You could try 3 times. They have now Etsy security password quality, minimum of 8, and then 4, the maximum times you can repeat. So this is something that you would want to look at when you're talking about hardening your system. Like if you had someone that was able to log in, if you didn't have a centralized logging in, like a, not necessarily a NIST, because most people don't use NIST anymore, but if you got LDAP or Open LDAP, Centrify, Even Windows, you can set up Linux to log into Windows using Windows domain. So you join the domain and you can control Windows from there. I mean, you can control your Linux boxes from there. So just some things to keep in mind. Another idea. Come on, mouse. Where are you? When we're talking about locking down and hardening your system, is how often you change your passwords and setting up like for us. I don't know if anyone uses KeyPass. I'm not sure what everyone else uses, but when you have like 100 machines to log into, some people have their stuff set up with um SSH keys. Some people don't. Some people log into boxes. It's really depending on you and who you're working with. But I advise you to use something like a KeyPass to keep track of what you're logging into in terms of if you're using username and passwords and so forth. And in that, also wanted to get back to SE Linux. So I turned it on. Inside of SE Linux config, and then set it to permissive. I have to reboot. I could have did an auto relabel, but I'm going to reboot. All right. So when it comes back up, we're going to go and do like a ls -z. And if you have a machine, you could do the same thing. So it shouldn't be that long for that to come back up. Shouldn't take that long. Any questions? How's the class so far for you? Is it too fast, too slow? Okay. All right. Let's see. Where's my? Oh, it's relabeling itself. That's why it's taking so long. Yeah, it'll be a second. So while it's doing this thing, let me look at my list. So the last little thing that we have to talk about is firewalls. So on my list, what I've gone over with you for a recap is we did. I set this up before. I did a Nexus install on the server side. I added the agent, but I also set up keys in between the two. So that's why I was able to um, go back over here. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let me go back and get it. Get the IP for that. So in here, you make that. This will get destroyed tonight too. I just had it for this class. So in here, I went over and I showed you how we did a scan and we looked at the vulnerabilities that we have. Remember, it's critical, high, medium, and low, and then everything else informational. And it tells you right here. So I added a key here, and that was scans. Let's click on. I want to launch. Let's go back to this. Where is he at? It doesn't let me do it. Then let me click on where I set up the actual keys. I've already set the keys up. Oh, here we go. So in my credentials for SSH, I have keys that I've already set up for this box. So that's why I was able to get on and do what I needed to do. But if I spun up another one, I wouldn't have keys on that box because I would have to put them on there. And then also there's also an agent that you can install on here to do your scans as well. And then I didn't talk about why you want to scan, but I think it's kind of obvious because you're looking for vulnerabilities on your box. If you didn't catch that, that's what it is. And then the next thing is automating this, right? So you always want to stay in compliance with whatever, because the last thing you want to get is, say this happened to me at SAIC. You install something like clear case or some EVSS or EVVS. I think it's EVSS, and they randomly scan your box. Well, I always have this rule of thumb is if I put an agent on the box and you scan it and you find a vulnerability, isn't it vulnerable for the agent to be scanning the server to be scanning the box using the agent? Shouldn't you just be able to scan my box without the agent being installed? That way we know that it's not. It's just my theory, but whatever. Anyway, so you have the agents on there, and they would scan it, and they would come back and they say, inside the network, you have these ports open. We're gonna shut the box down if you don't shut these ports down. So that's when it gets kind of hairy, because you're internal to your network, and so those ports may need to be open for your network, depending on what you're doing. So, it's a catch 22. Then you want to make sure you automate this, because your updates should be automated, as a caveat to that. And the caveat is, if you have a machine that's in production and it needs a certain Java, or it needs a certain um, particular package, and you go and update it, and then everybody's looking at you like, so why you update that? Like, that could potentially happen. So now the machine is back up. Like I said, it had to relabel itself. And how do you know SE Linux is running? So if you did a PS AUX, and if I go up here, let's see, where's my Z at? Oh, it's not showing me. Hold on. Let's do this. Dash help. I think it's a dash Z that you could pass it. But either way it goes, I can do get enforce. It shows me that I'm in permissive mode. But also, if I do a ls minus a, let's just do a ls minus on this one. So that's see the Nexus thing. But if I do a ls minus z and do Nexus, one, you'll see that dot that lets me know that's on, but you see some more information here. And this is the information that you see here. Like, you see the system that's involved, the object, the user, and the domain. Well, how do I know all of that? This is where this comes in at, this SE Linux guide. And this is when it gets hairy. Like, if you open up HTTP and you start, you put files in that directory, but those files don't have the same label as that directory, it won't render. So let's look at that. Let's do a yum install on HTTPD. And then we'll go over to var ww. And let's do a ls minus z, minus L, capital Z. And you can see that I have this file. I have this system, and then there's the context in which this should work, right? This is the context or that every file that comes into this folder should be in. So let's cd over to HTML, and let's touch hello.txt. Because I have SE Linux turned on, it should give me a default context. So now let's do a ls minus lz. And because I touched the file inside of this directory, it made it of the same context. So let's do a ls minus lz on a file in etc, and let's look up ntp. Oh, I don't have ntp in there. Let's install that. All right, so now I'll get a file called ntp.conf. And as you can see, the context of that file is that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a backup of this file first. I'm going to copy that file over to ntp.conf, and I'm going to copy it over to ntp.conf.org original. So I just know that file is there. All right, so I have a copy of that file, so I'm not missing anything. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move that file, ntp.conf, to here. Now remember, the context of it is this, right? But we also know that the context of my directory that I'm in is this. So let's see what happens when I move that file over to here. Let's do a ls minus lz on this directory. Because I moved this file from where it was to here, that file has the context of the original location that it was. Now, when I go to spin this up, let's do this. Let's turn on HTTPD. Here's my IP address here. Let's see. Can't grab it there. All right. So now when I go here, all right, you see that file. Let's see if we can see this file. It may not let me render. Oh, it let me render. Interesting. It wasn't supposed to. All right, let's go back and look at it. Maybe because I did a move. I forget which one it is. Hold on. So you know what? I probably can't do anything to that file. That may be it. But anyway, so we have the hello.txt. We have the ntp.conf. And you see the different domains that they're in here. Let me see something. What happens when I make a directory? Let's call it test perm. It's clear. Let's do ls minus z. And let's echo some stuff into this other file. It should, hello text should work. It's appended. I want to overwrite it. So here, if I go to, oh, you know what? I'm gonna tell you why this works. I forgot. Why it works is I'm in permissive mode. Let's take the same concept. We're gonna leave everything the same. And we're gonna go back and we're gonna change this to enforce. And I'm just gonna get rid of everything in here for now. And we're gonna reboot. It's gonna have to relabel, but what's gonna end up happening is it's gonna relabel itself. And we're gonna do the same thing we did. We're gonna move a file over, we're gonna write a file in there, and we're gonna see what renders and what doesn't render. And what's gonna end up happening, because we're in permissive mode, what we said was in permissive mode, log everything that we do, but allow it. but just keep a note that I'm doing this. I'm gonna let you do this, but I'm gonna log it. And inside of enforce mode, when we enforce it, we say, hey, I'm not allowing you to do nothing. And if you want that to happen, you need to do these things. this this needs to match up with this. So let's see if it's up yet. Yeah, shouldn't. I knew that one shouldn't take that long. All right, let's go back over to, let's start it again. All right, and let's cd over to var www html. Let's go history. Type that over to less. Let's do 120. All right, and let's do it. We can do it LL. Oh, it doesn't like it. Minus Z. So that should work when we come over here. I should be able to just to refresh, right? But we're going to now move that ntp.conf file. Oh, that's fine. To here. And then let's clear the screen here. And let's go back. Remember, this doesn't have the same context as it did earlier. And let's actually move this to ntp.conf because I don't want to type .org in my thing. And now let's go here. Ah, it did it again. It worked. Let's find out why. Let's go to var log and auditing too. All right, so we see we have some messages in secure. We have, oh, we didn't audit this, but we didn't audit this. We may need to add an audit to audit rules here. So anytime something happens to ntp.conf and we need to do it on we need to watch a directory. Let's look that one up. What's it called? Audit Rel 7 directories. I think you can audit a directory. Control, file system rules, system calls. We want to do one on a directory. And as you can see here, it says them listing, but see, watch a path. Yeah, so they just do a path to a file. It's not a directory. Yeah, see, they're just files. I thought you could do it on a directory, but it's a directory in the file. That's not gonna work. However, we see that, oh, hold on, I'm in the wrong one. We see that we got an unconfined object. This right here, and I want to break this down to you. Let's go back over to our Linux and let's look at unconfined processes. So you see these rules here. They talk about like your Samba T and C manage and so forth. These are the type of context that you can put your actual files in. So they put in, and it's funny that this worked. I gotta remember why that worked. something about it being unconfined versus confined, and then the context. I'm gonna have to do some research. I'm gonna come back to this next week. I think next week we'll do SE Linux all next week on Wednesday. I think we'll do a SE Linux one. Let me see. Where do they break down the context of this of SE Linux so that you can see? Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is more like it. Did anybody get confused on this? If you did, it's okay because it's SE Linux. All is forgiven in the world of SE Linux. One HTML page, please. All right. Let's see. Where is my context? MLS default changing context. No. Where'd you go? I don't want to list the booleans, but that's something to show you too. I'll grab that. So this is what I was kind of looking for, but I want to break down the command of what you saw for you. So in here, you'll see the state of which it's at and then the default state. So we have like, let me see if I can, oh, here it is. Let me grab for HTTPD and then pipe it over the less. So here's everything we have for HTTPD. Like we want to turn on something. Some things are native. You can write native modules for SE Linux as well. But you could turn on CIFS if you had CIF shares. If you wanted your home directories to be rendered over HTTPD, you could do that. Running IPA, you could do that. SendMail, these are just things that you can turn on by default and it'll rewrite the module for you and you won't have to do anything like fancy. When I say fancy, it's trying to figure out if everything is correct and restore and all of that. But we're gonna get into SE Linux next week. I'll do you a disservice if I didn't go over SE Linux next week. I don't want you to feel left out. So let's go back up here. And then there are let's see. Single. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Unconfined. I wanted to see what it was gonna break down the types. Like I want to break this down. I'll save it for next week. How to break that down. Because S0 is 1, and then there's like S1, S2, S3, S4, S5. I'll break all that stuff down next week on what each one of these mean. And it's in this file. They tell you about it in this file. And we have reached our 9 o'clock mark.